The voting chamber fell silent as the final count appeared on the holographic display. Ambassador Wren watched the numbers with a sinking feeling in his chest. 57 votes against prosecution, 43 in favor. The Bellum Consortium would face no consequences for destroying the medical vessel. Wren pressed his communication device, trying once more to reach the human delegation. Static answered him. They had left the station 3 hours ago without a formal goodbye. That alone should have warned everyone something terrible was coming. The Karathi ambassador shuffled his papers, trying to ignore the uneasy whispers spreading through the chamber. His species had always prided themselves on diplomacy, on finding middle ground between conflicting interests. But watching the vote tally, he wondered if they had just committed the greatest diplomatic failure in galactic history. A junior assistant rushed into the chamber, her face pale. She handed a data tablet to the council chairman, who read it twice before speaking. His voice cracked slightly. Earth has transmitted an official statement. They are withdrawing from all galactic treaties effective immediately. All human personnel are being recalled from every cooperative venture, every peacekeeping mission, and every aid station. Their borders are closed. Communication channels are terminated. The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted questions. Some laughed nervously, assuming this was a negotiating tactic. Wren said nothing. He simply requested a copy of Earth's final message. It appeared on his screen, brief, cold, final. We asked you to be better. You chose profit over principle. 17 of our people died bringing medicine to those who suffered. You held a vote on whether their murders mattered. The vote failed. We are done. Do not contact us again. Wren thought about the last time he had spoken with Ambassador Rodriguez, the human representative. They had shared a meal in the station's garden dome, discussing literature and philosophy. Rodriguez had seemed tired that day, mentioning how hard it was to convince people back on Earth that the galaxy was worth engaging with. Some humans think we should focus only on ourselves, Rodriguez had said. They say we give too much and receive too little respect in return. I keep telling them they are wrong, that most species in the galaxy genuinely want cooperation and peace. Wren had agreed enthusiastically. Now those words felt like ashes. The council chairman called for order, but chaos continued. The representative from Urath Prime demanded to know who would manage the medical infrastructure humans had built on 70 different worlds. The Corthan delegate asked about the trade routes humans maintained through dangerous sectors. Someone mentioned the peacekeepers stationed in the disputed zones. Wren pulled up the statistics. The numbers painted a horrifying picture. Humans represented only 3% of the galactic population, but they ran 60% of all charitable medical operations. They mediated 80% of successful peace treaties. Their ships maintained infrastructure for 40% of major trade routes, mostly in regions other species found too dangerous or unprofitable. A message flashed across his screen. The human agricultural consultants on Karathi Prime were packing. They would leave within the week. Wren felt panic grip him. Those consultants had spent 15 years teaching his people sustainable farming techniques. The knowledge transfer was incomplete. Without them, the next growing season would fail. He tried to send a message. The communication channel returned an error. Human networks had already blocked galactic access. The chairman finally restored order by threatening to clear the chamber. He proposed sending an emergency delegation to Earth to negotiate. The suggestion received overwhelming support. Wren noticed that many of those voting yes had voted no just an hour earlier. Perhaps we can offer economic incentives, suggested the Bellum Consortium representative, apparently unaware that everyone in the room now despised him. Humans always respond to proper financial motivation. Wren could not stay silent. The humans we murdered were volunteers. They paid their own way to deliver medicine to strangers. What financial motivation exactly do you think drives such people? The consortium representative had no answer. Reports began flooding in. Human colony worlds near galactic borders were activating defense systems. Human ships in neutral space were turning around, heading back toward Earth. The massive human-run hospital ship orbiting Station 17 had jumped away without warning, leaving thousands of patients wondering where they would receive treatment. A Earth delegate started weeping openly. Her world had recently survived a pandemic only because human medical teams worked around the clock for 8 months. She kept repeating that her people owed humanity everything. Ren accessed news feeds from Earth. The footage showed massive crowds in major cities, but they were not protesting. They were mourning. 17 names appeared on memorial screens in every human settlement. 17 faces. 17 stories of people who believed helping others mattered more than personal safety. One face caught Ren's attention. Dr. Lisa Kim, age 28. She had volunteered for medical missions to 4 different plague zones before dying in the attack. Her family released a statement saying she always believed the galaxy could become better if people tried hard enough. The irony crushed Ren. Humans withdrew not because they were cruel, but because they cared too much. They could not continue watching their best people die while bureaucrats debated whether those deaths warranted inconveniencing wealthy criminals. The emergency session continued for 6 more hours. They formed committees, drafted proposals, and created elaborate plans to convince Earth to reconsider. Ren listened to it all with growing despair. None of them understood. This was not a negotiation. Earth was not playing politics. They had simply reached their limit. As the session finally ended, Ren walked to the observation deck. He stared at the stars, wondering how many human ships were out there right now, racing home. How many aid stations were closing? How many peace treaties would collapse without human mediators? A small transport ship passed by the window, heading toward the edge of the system. Ren recognized the registry. Human. He watched until it vanished. The galaxy had just lost something precious. And they had lost it because when the moment came to choose between doing what was right and protecting what was profitable, they chose wrong. Ren wondered if they would get a second chance. He doubted it. 6 months changed everything. Ren barely recognized the station anymore as he walked through corridors that once buzzed with activity. Half the commercial district sat empty, shops closed permanently. The lighting had been dimmed to save power. Fewer ships docked each week. He passed what used to be a thriving restaurant run by a human family. The windows were dark. A sign on the door read, "Gone home," in 5 different languages. Ren remembered eating there every week, enjoying something called pasta while the owner's daughter told him stories about Earth's oceans. The economic reports made grim reading. Galactic trade volume had dropped 40%. Not because humans controlled that much trade themselves, but because they facilitated it. They negotiated between species who disliked each other. They maintained routes through hazardous space. They provided neutral meeting grounds for business deals. Without them, old grudges resurfaced. The Corthan and Velian species had stopped trading entirely after a border dispute neither side would compromise on. Previously, a human mediator would have spent a few weeks finding common ground. Now both species simply refused contact, and entire supply chains collapsed. Ren reviewed casualty reports from frontier regions. Border skirmishes had killed thousands in territories where human peacekeepers once patrolled. Those peacekeepers had been unarmed, relying only on reputation and respected neutrality. But their presence had mattered. Apparently, no one wanted to be the species that attacked humans while they tried to keep peace. Now those humans were gone, and species with centuries-old hatreds remembered why they hated each other. The medical situation hurt worse. Ren watched footage from a colony world where a treatable disease was killing children by the hundreds. Human medical ships used to rotate through such worlds every few months, bringing supplies and training local doctors. Those ships had not come for half a year. The Galactic Health Organization attempted to fill the gap. They managed to help maybe 10% of those in need. They lacked the ships, the trained personnel, and most crucially, the institutional knowledge humans had built over generations. A colleague shared a disturbing story. Her world had a water purification system designed by human engineers 20 years ago. Last month it failed. The repair manual was written in human technical language, full of Earth idioms and cultural references that made translation difficult. They finally fixed it after 3 weeks. 14 people died from contaminated water during that time. Similar stories arrived daily. A mining operation collapsed because human safety inspectors were not there to catch a structural flaw. A school for refugee children closed because human teachers were the only ones who bothered learning all the different languages needed. A research station studying dangerous stellar phenomena went dark when the human astrophysicist who understood its equipment went home. Wren attended a council emergency meeting about the Bellum Consortium. Their stock value had crashed 80%. Dozens of species had blacklisted them completely. No one wanted to do business with the company responsible for starting this disaster. The consortium's representative begged the council for protection. The irony was so thick Wren almost laughed. They wanted the council to enforce consequences they had argued should not exist. The council refused, not out of principle but because they had no enforcement power anymore. Human peacekeepers had provided that power. Without them, the council was just a debate club. Wren received a personal message from his home world. The agricultural situation was deteriorating faster than predicted. Crop yields were down 30%. The human consultants had warned this would happen if they left before completing knowledge transfer. Politicians had dismissed those warnings as exaggeration. They were not exaggerating. His sister sent a video. She stood in a field of dying plants, explaining that they followed all the procedures the humans taught them, but something was wrong. Probably something obvious that any human agricultural expert would spot immediately. But there were no human experts to ask. Earth had closed its communications networks. Every attempt to send a message returned the same automated response. This frequency is no longer in service. Some species tried getting creative. They sent ships to the edge of human space, broadcasting pleas for help. Those ships reported that human defense platforms appeared within minutes, weapons armed, making it very clear that approaching closer would be unwise. A few desperate colonies tried sending messages via old human communication satellites that still orbited their worlds. Those satellites were mysteriously deactivated within days. Earth was not just isolating itself. Earth was making sure the isolation was absolute. Wren spent his evenings researching human history. He needed to understand the people his civilization had alienated. What he learned disturbed him. Humans had a pattern. They gave freely and expected little in return, but they never forgot betrayal. Their history was full of examples. Allies who betrayed them found themselves cut off permanently. Humans might forgive eventually, but they never forgot, and they never risked the same betrayal twice. The galaxy had betrayed them, and humans were responding exactly as their history suggested they would. A distress signal interrupted his research. Urath Prime, plague outbreak. Their medical system had catastrophically failed. Thousands were dying daily. They needed help desperately. The council gathered to discuss the crisis. Everyone looked at the empty seats where human delegates used to sit. Someone suggested sending the Galactic Health Organization. Everyone knew it would not be enough. Perhaps we could send a delegation to Earth, the chairman proposed weakly. Explain the humanitarian emergency. Surely they would not let an entire world die. Wren wanted to scream. They still did not understand. 17 humans had died trying to prevent exactly this kind of tragedy. The galaxy had voted that those deaths did not matter enough to prosecute the killers. Now the galaxy wanted those same humans to come die for them again. He stood up. "I volunteer to lead the delegation to Earth." The chairman looked surprised. "Are you certain, Ambassador? They may not receive you well." "They will not receive us well," Wren agreed. "But someone must try, and it should be someone who voted to prosecute the consortium." The chairman winced. He had voted against prosecution. Wren prepared for departure, knowing his mission would probably fail. But he had to try, because unlike the council, he had learned something important over these terrible 6 months. The galaxy did not deserve human help, but those dying of plague on Ureth Prime were not the politicians who voted wrong. They were ordinary people who also did not deserve to die. Maybe humans would remember that distinction. Wren hoped they would, even if he doubted it. The Sol system appeared on their view screen like a fortress. Wren counted at least 50 defense platforms he could see, and sensors indicated hundreds more hidden throughout the system. Every major planet and moon bristled with weapons of designs his ship's computer could not identify. His pilot, a nervous young Karathi named Tesh, kept checking their shields. "Ambassador, are you certain about this? Those platforms are tracking us." "I am certain we must try," Wren said, though his certainty ended there. An automated message played across all frequencies. The voice was human but emotionless, clearly computer-generated. "You are entering sovereign human territory. This is your only warning. Turn back immediately." Wren activated their communication system. "This is Ambassador Wren of the Karathi delegation. We request permission to speak with Earth government representatives regarding a humanitarian crisis on Ureth Prime. Thousands are dying from plague. We need help." Silence answered him. They drifted in space for 3 hours. Wren broadcasted his message every 30 minutes. Nothing changed except the defense platforms, which rotated slowly to keep weapons aimed at their small ship. Tesh fidgeted with the controls. "We should leave. They are not interested in talking." "We stay," Wren said firmly. On the 4th hour, Wren tried a different approach. He broadcasted personal messages from Ureth civilians. A mother begging for medicine to save her children. A doctor describing patients dying in hallways because the medical facilities were overwhelmed. A teacher explaining that school had closed because too many children were sick. Still nothing. Wren spent the waiting time researching what humans had done throughout the galaxy. His team had compiled extensive reports. The numbers were staggering, but the stories behind the numbers hurt more. A human engineer who spent 10 years on a mining world, not just maintaining equipment but teaching locals how to maintain it themselves. She refused salary, asking only for room and meals. When she finally left, the miners threw her a party that lasted 3 days. A human medical team that worked for 8 months straight during a pandemic on the Ureth home world, sleeping in shifts, barely resting. When the crisis ended and the team prepared to leave, the Ureth government offered them enormous payments. The team leader refused, saying they came to help, not to profit. A human teacher who learned 7 different languages to educate refugee children from various species. She developed a curriculum that respected each culture while teaching practical skills. Former students scattered across the galaxy still sent her messages on Earth holidays. These stories repeated endlessly. Humans going to dangerous places, doing difficult work, asking for little, and leaving places better than they found them. And the galaxy had let 17 of them die, then voted that their deaths were not worth punishing. On the 5th day, something changed. A small human vessel approached their ship. It docked without requesting permission, and 3 humans in plain gray uniforms boarded. The leader was a woman who introduced herself simply as Commander Wells. She looked tired. Her uniform was clean but worn, suggesting she had been wearing it a long time. "Ambassador Wren," she said, her voice flat. "You have been broadcasting emergency messages for 5 days. We have been listening." Relief flooded through Ren. "Then you will help. The Urath are dying by the thousands. Their medical infrastructure has failed." Wells nodded slowly. "We know. We have been monitoring the situation. The plague is a mutated form of Corellian fever, treatable with standard antivirals if administered within the first 72 hours of infection." "Then you can save them," Ren said desperately. "We could," Wells agreed, "but why should we?" The question hung in the air like poison. Ren had prepared arguments about shared galactic responsibility and moral obligations, but facing this exhausted human commander, those arguments felt obscene. He decided on honesty instead. "You should not," he admitted. "The galaxy failed you. We watched your people die and did nothing. We have no right to ask anything from you." Wells studied him carefully. "Yet you came here anyway." "Because people are dying," Ren said. "Because I voted to prosecute the Bellum Consortium and I failed to convince others. Because I am ashamed of my civilization's choice, and I needed to at least try to fix what we broke." "You cannot fix it," Wells said quietly. 17 people are dead. Good people. Dr. Kim was my friend. We attended medical school together. She was brilliant and kind, and she died because she believed helping others mattered more than her own safety. Tears formed in Ren's eyes. "I know. I have read about all of them. I have watched their families mourn. I have no words adequate to express my sorrow for what happened." Wells pulled out a data pad. "Do you know what the hardest part was? Not the deaths themselves. We knew the risks. The hardest part was watching the council vote. Watching species we had helped, worlds we had saved, vote that our dead did not matter enough to inconvenience wealthy criminals." She showed him the pad. It displayed footage from the voting session. Ren watched himself voting for prosecution, watched it fail. 17 humans died, Wells continued, and 57 delegates decided their murders were acceptable. "I am sorry," Ren whispered. "Your apology changes nothing," Wells said, but her voice had lost some of its hardness. "However, I will deliver a message to Earth government. I cannot promise they will respond." She and her team left. Ren waited 3 more days. Finally, a message arrived, text only, no voice, no video. "We have reviewed your request. A single medical ship will be dispatched to assist the Urath. The ship will operate independently. It will not report to the Council. It will not coordinate with galactic authorities. The medical team will help those who are sick, then they will leave. This is not a reopening of relations. This is humans helping humans. We do this because Dr. Kim would have wanted us to, not because you asked." The message ended with a single line that made Ren's chest ache. "We grieved for our dead while you discussed stock prices. Now you want our help. Convince us why we should care about your dead when you did not care about ours." Ren realized Earth had sent help, but they also sent a test. They wanted to see if the galaxy had learned anything, if those dying mattered more than politics and profit. He began composing his response, knowing whatever he wrote would determine if this small act of mercy was the beginning of reconciliation, or the last thing humans ever did for the galaxy. The broadcast started small, just a local news program on Karathi Prime. But within hours, it spread across the galaxy like wildfire. A journalist had compiled interviews with beings whose lives were touched by humans before the withdrawal. Ren watched from his quarters, having returned from the Sol system exhausted and uncertain. The first interview showed an elderly Velian farmer standing in green fields. 20 years ago, drought destroyed everything, the farmer said. My family faced starvation. Then human agricultural experts arrived. They taught us new irrigation techniques, helped us breed drought-resistant crops. They stayed for 3 years, refusing payment. When they left, my youngest daughter cried for days. She had learned to call the lead expert Uncle Marcus. The screen shifted to a Ureth doctor, her face creased with age and worry. During the pandemic, I worked alongside human medical teams for 8 months. They never stopped. Even when exhausted, they kept going. One doctor collapsed from fatigue. We begged him to rest. He said he would rest when people stopped dying. That doctor's name was Dr. Kim. She died 6 months ago, and we voted that her murder did not matter. The doctor began weeping. The interview ended. More followed. A former warlord from the frontier region spoke bluntly. I led raiders for 15 years, killed countless beings. Then a human negotiator came to my camp alone, unarmed. She sat down and asked why I chose violence. We talked for 3 days. She convinced me peace was stronger than conquest. I have been a legitimate businessman for 10 years now because one human cared enough to risk death talking to a killer. A child appeared on screen, maybe 7 years old, holding a worn stuffed toy. A human gave me this bear. She worked at the refugee center where my family stayed. She taught me games from Earth. She said I was smart and could be anything I wanted. I want to be a doctor now because of her, but she went home. I miss her. The broadcast continued for 2 hours, story after story. Humans teaching, healing, building, mediating, and protecting. Always asking for little, sometimes asking for nothing. Then the broadcast showed the voting session. Every delegate who voted against prosecuting the Bellum Consortium was named. Their faces appeared on screen beside the names of the 17 dead humans. Ren's face was not among them, but he felt no pride. He had voted correctly and still failed to convince others. The response was immediate and massive. Protests erupted on dozens of worlds. Citizens demanded their delegates resign. The Bellum Consortium's remaining offices were vandalized. Several species issued formal apologies to Earth, though Earth's communication networks remained closed. Ren received a message from the council chairman requesting his presence urgently. He arrived to find chaos. Half the delegates were shouting at each other. The other half looked terrified. "Order," the chairman yelled, pounding his desk. "We must have order." A Ureth delegate stood. "Order. 17 humans died saving my people from plague. We voted their deaths did not matter. Now my people are dying again, and we beg those same humans for help. Where is the order in that?" "We must focus on solutions," the chairman insisted. "The solution is obvious," said the delegate from Corthan. "We must prove to Earth that we have changed. Words mean nothing. We need action." Ren stood slowly, every eye turned to him. "I propose the Accountability Accords," he said. "New galactic laws with real enforcement. First, crimes against humanitarian workers must be prosecuted regardless of economic impact. Second, humanitarian workers receive protected status under galactic law. Violating that status becomes a universal crime. Third, Earth receives formal reparations for the 17 dead, paid by every species that voted against prosecution." The chamber exploded. Some delegates shouted support, others called it surrender. The Bellum Consortium representative, somehow still attending sessions despite his company's collapse, stood angrily. "This is absurd. You cannot change centuries of galactic law because humans are upset." Ren turned to face him directly. 17 humans died. Thousands more are dying because those humans withdrew their help. Our economy has collapsed. Wars have started. Children are starving. All because we prioritized your profits over their lives. Yes, we can change the law. We should have changed it years ago. Voting took 3 days. The debate was fierce. Species that had benefited most from human help pushed hardest for the accords. Those who had taken human help for granted argued against them. Meanwhile, the human medical ship arrived at Ureth Prime. Ren watched news coverage obsessively. The ship did not contact galactic authorities, did not coordinate with local government. The medical team simply started treating the sick, working from temporary facilities they set up in hours. A Ureth reporter managed to interview the team leader, Dr. Grace Powell. She looked exhausted but determined. "Why are you helping us?" the reporter asked. "After what the galaxy did to your people." Dr. Powell's answer was simple. "Because people are sick, because I am a doctor, because Dr. Kim would have come here regardless of politics and she was my friend." "Will Earth return to the galaxy?" the reporter pressed. "That is not my decision," Dr. Powell said. "I am here to save lives, not negotiate treaties." The footage showed human doctors working alongside Urath medical staff, teaching as they treated. They did not just cure the sick. They explained the treatments, demonstrated proper procedures, and ensured local doctors could continue the work after they left. Exactly what humans had always done. The accountability accords came to a vote. Ren watched the count appear on the display. 73 votes in favor, 27 against. It passed. The accords were transmitted to Earth through every available channel. Then the galaxy waited. 3 weeks passed before a response came, not from Earth's government, from a small non-profit medical organization called Doctors Without Borders, Earth Chapter. "We have received your accords and your apology. 3 more medical ships will be dispatched to crisis zones. We will operate independently of galactic authority. We answer only to those we help. This is not forgiveness. This is doctors doing what doctors do. If you want Earth's true return, you must prove these accords mean something. Enforce them. Show us you learned." It was not reconciliation, but it was a beginning. Ren looked at the memorial the council had erected. 17 names, 17 faces, 17 lives lost because the galaxy chose wrong. He made a private promise to those 17. The galaxy would do better. He would make sure of it, even if it took the rest of his life. 1 year after Earth's withdrawal, Ren stood in a small cafe on a neutral trading station halfway between Karathi space and human territory. The location was deliberate. Earth had agreed to this meeting, but refused to meet in council space or on any major world. Dr. Grace Powell arrived exactly on time. She wore civilian clothes rather than a uniform, and she looked less exhausted than when he had seen her on Urath Prime. But her eyes still carried a wariness that made Ren's heart ache. "Ambassador Ren," she said, sitting across from him without offering a handshake. "Please, just Ren. I am here as myself, not as a representative." She studied him carefully. "Yet the council sent you." "The council wanted to send a formal delegation with speeches and treaties. I convinced them that would be a mistake. You do not trust us. Why would you trust our official promises?" Powell almost smiled. "You are learning." They ordered drinks. Powell chose something called coffee, strong enough that Ren's sensitive nose detected it from across the table. He picked a mild Karathi tea. "How is the work on Urath Prime?" Ren asked. "Successful. The plague is contained. Local medical staff can handle the remaining cases. We leave in 2 weeks. And then we go home or to the next crisis, whichever comes first." Ren leaned forward. "Why did Earth agree to this meeting?" Powell set down her coffee. "Because some of us still want to believe the galaxy can be better. We are probably foolish, but Dr. Kim believed it, and we owe it to her memory to at least try." Earth's government remains isolationist. "Earth's government represents people who are hurt and angry," Powell said bluntly. "We gave the galaxy everything. We lost people helping strangers who did not appreciate the sacrifice. When our dead needed justice, the galaxy chose corporate profits. That hurt deeply." Ren nodded. "I understand. I voted for prosecution and failed to convince others. That failure haunts me." "You tried. Most did not even try." Powell paused. "The broadcasts helped. Seeing ordinary people across the galaxy acknowledging what humans did. Seeing species hold their own leaders accountable. It does not fix what happened, but it shows awareness." "Is that enough?" "No," Powell said firmly. "But it is something. Earth is not punishing the galaxy, Ren. We are protecting ourselves. We cannot be the galaxy's free labor and emotional support and moral compass. We cannot watch our people die while bureaucrats debate whether their deaths matter. What would Earth need to re-engage? Powell laughed, but there was no humor in it. You assume we want to re-engage on the old terms. We do not. If humans return to galactic affairs, it will be different, slower, with clear boundaries, with guarantees that our people will not be expendable. The accountability accords provide those guarantees. The accords are words on screens. We need to see them enforced. We need to see them mean something when enforcement is difficult or expensive. Ren pulled out his data pad. The first test case was resolved last month. A mining corporation on Veli's IV attempted to block humanitarian workers from reaching a disaster site because those workers refused to sign liability waivers. Under the old system, the humanitarian groups would have been delayed while lawyers argued. Under the accords, the corporation was fined immediately and faces criminal charges. The workers reached the disaster zone within hours. Powell read the report carefully. That is one case. There have been 15 cases so far. 13 were resolved quickly. 2 are still in process but proceeding properly. The accords have teeth. Because enforcing them is easy right now. What happens when it becomes hard? When powerful species face prosecution? When enforcement costs money or political capital? Ren had no answer that would satisfy her. He knew it, she knew it. You want proof, he said finally. Real proof that the galaxy has changed. I understand. But please understand our position too. We are dying slowly without human engagement. Not because we are helpless, but because we built a civilization that depended on human compassion and competence. We took you for granted. Now we are learning painfully what we lost. Powell softened slightly. I read reports about Karathi Prime, your agricultural crisis. Worsening, Ren admitted. We followed every procedure the human consultants taught us, but something is wrong. Our best experts cannot identify the problem. We face serious food shortages within 2 years. Probably soil microbiome depletion, Powell said immediately. It happens when you follow procedures correctly but miss the deeper ecological context. Your soil needs specific bacterial colonies that your climate disrupts. The human consultants would have monitored that and made adjustments. Ren stared at her. You know this from a brief description. I am a doctor, not an agricultural expert, but I spent time with the agricultural teams. Humans train broadly because we learned that everything connects. Medicine connects to agriculture, connects to engineering, connects to culture. You cannot fix problems in isolation. Will anyone come to help us? Powell was quiet for a long moment. I cannot promise anything, but I will mention it to colleagues. If someone volunteers, they will come. On their terms. Not as an employee of your government or a contractor. As an independent expert who chooses to help. That would be enough, more than enough. They talked for 2 more hours. Powell explained how Earth had used the isolation period. They focused inward, strengthening their own worlds and colonies. They built infrastructure they had neglected while helping others. They trained new generations of experts in case future engagement became possible. Many humans miss the work, Powell admitted. Being part of something larger than Earth, making a difference across the galaxy, it gave people purpose. Then return, Ren said. The galaxy needs you. The galaxy needs to prove it deserves us, Powell corrected gently. And we need to learn better boundaries. We gave too much before. We burned ourselves out trying to fix everything. That was our mistake too. As the meeting ended, Powell offered her hand. Ren shook it carefully, aware of the trust implied in that gesture. This is not forgiveness, Powell said, but it is dialogue. That is more than we had yesterday. Ren watched her leave, feeling a small spark of hope for the first time in a year. The galaxy had not earned Earth's return, but maybe, with time and proof, they could. 2 years after the withdrawal, Ren received an unexpected message. A human agricultural expert named Sam Chen had volunteered to help with the Karathi soil crisis. He would arrive within the week and stay as long as needed. Ren met him at the spaceport personally. Chen was a middle-aged man with weathered hands and a quiet demeanor. He carried a single bag and refused the official transport Ren had arranged. "I prefer to walk when possible," Chen explained. "You learn more about a place on foot." They took public transportation to the Agricultural Research Center. Chen watched everything with sharp, interested eyes. He asked questions about crop yields, weather patterns, and farming traditions. He never mentioned Earth's withdrawal or the political situation. In the fields, Chen spent 3 days just observing. He walked through the crops, examined soil samples, and talked with local farmers. On the 4th day, he called a meeting. "Your procedures are perfect," he told the assembled agricultural experts. "But procedures are not enough. You are treating your fields like machines that follow instructions. They are ecosystems that require understanding." He explained soil microbiomes, seasonal bacterial cycles, and the complex relationships between plants and microscopic life. Most importantly, he taught them how to observe and adjust rather than simply following fixed protocols. "The human consultants before us taught you what to do," Chen said. "Now I am teaching you why. So when conditions change, you can adapt without needing outside help." Ren watched this approach with fascination. Chen was not just fixing the problem. He was ensuring the Karathi could fix future problems themselves. After 6 months, the agricultural situation stabilized. Chen prepared to leave, refusing any payment beyond basic living expenses. "Why do you refuse compensation?" Ren asked. Chen shrugged. "I did not come for money. I came because people needed help and I could provide it. Charging for that feels wrong." "But Earth changed. You withdrew. You established boundaries." "Yes," Chen agreed. "And one of those boundaries is that we do not help because we are paid to help. We help because we choose to help. Payment creates obligation. Obligation creates resentment. This way, my choice remains mine." Similar stories emerged across the galaxy. Small teams of human volunteers appeared in crisis zones, never large operations, never coordinated by Earth's government, just individuals or tiny groups who decided their skills were needed. They came with conditions. They operated independently. They answered to no political authority. They left when their work was complete. And most importantly, they taught rather than simply fixing problems. The Council struggled with this new reality. They wanted formal treaties, structured agreements, and predictable human involvement. They got none of those things. "We cannot build policy around individual volunteers," the chairman complained during one session. "Then do not," Ren suggested. "Accept that human help when it comes will come on human terms. Stop trying to control it and start being grateful for it." The chairman did not like that answer, but he accepted it. The galaxy was learning slowly. Ren visited the memorial to the 17 dead humans regularly. It had become a pilgrimage site. Beings from across the galaxy left offerings there. Flowers in human style. Written messages of apology and gratitude. Small mementos from those whose lives had been touched by humans. One day, Ren found an elderly Urath woman kneeling before Dr. Kim's name. She was crying softly. "She saved my grandchildren," the woman explained when she noticed Ren. "During the pandemic, my whole family was dying. Dr. Kim worked 30 hours straight keeping them alive. I never got to thank her." Ren had no words that could ease that pain. The Bellum Consortium eventually collapsed completely. No one would do business with them. Their assets were seized to pay reparations. The individuals responsible for ordering the attack on the medical ship faced trial under the new accords. The trial was thorough, transparent, and resulted in convictions. Significant prison sentences were handed down. It would not bring back the dead, but it established that the accords had meaning. Earth's government issued a brief statement acknowledging the trial's conclusion. They said nothing else. But 3 weeks later, 2 more human medical ships began operating in frontier regions. Progress, Ren thought. Slow and painful, but progress. He met with Dr. Powell one more time, again at the Neutral Station Cafe. She looked better now, less burdened. "How is Earth?" Ren asked. "Healing," Powell said. "Still hurt, still cautious, but healing. Some people want to re-engage with the galaxy, others never want to leave Earth again. Both views are valid." "And you?" Powell smiled slightly. "I leave again next month. There is a medical crisis on a mining world. They need experienced doctors." "You keep going back." "Because the work matters, because people need help, because Dr. Kim taught me that making a difference is worth the risk." She paused. "But I go on my terms now. I take breaks. I say no when I am too tired. I do not burn myself out trying to save everyone." "That is wise." "That is survival," Powell corrected. "We learned we cannot save the galaxy. We can only help where we can, when we can, if we choose to." They talked about smaller things after that. Life on Earth, Karathi cultural festivals, the strange food at the cafe, normal conversation between 2 people who had grown to respect each other. As they parted, Powell said something that stayed with Ren. "The galaxy will never be what it was. Humans will never give as freely or trust as easily. But maybe that is better. Maybe relationships based on gratitude and choice are stronger than ones based on assumption and habit." Ren returned to the council chambers where the memorial stood. He read the 17 names as he did every day. Then he read the quote below them. "We help because someone has to, not because someone asked us to." The galaxy had learned that lesson expensively. Humans helped because they chose to help, not because anyone had the right to expect it. That choice made their help precious. Their absence had taught the galaxy what taking them for granted cost. A human ship undocked from a distant station, its mission complete. It would return home to Earth. And eventually, when ready, those aboard might venture out again. The galaxy would wait. And this time, when humans came, they would be welcomed properly. Not as free labor or automatic saviors, but as equals who chose to share their gifts. That was enough. It had to be enough. The galaxy was learning to be worthy of that choice.